no action. So we're going to jump to the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have dual leadership. So Eric Dubois and Sky Samuels, if you could come up front here by the mic, if you'd be good enough, and if everybody could rise and turn to the flag. These gentlemen will lead us. Guys, the flag's over here, you got it? There you go. You're right, you couldn't find it, right? Go right ahead.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go. All right, may I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're 4 plus 1 tonight. We're down 1 board member. All right, well, it's great. We're going to do student, staff, and community recognition. So we're going to recognize some great performances by Cunha Intermediate School Science Fair participants who traveled to the state. So,
Mr. Murray, would you come and assist us again?
and parents, I'm going to do a better job this time in pausing them when we're up here. I have my teacher brain sometimes, and at the end of the last one, my parent brain came on. I'm like, we never gave them a chance to take a photo. So we had 21 students go to county. 2 earned special awards, 2 earned 3rd place. We had 1 honorable mention. And then we had 2 second places, Ben Hooper, who's playing soccer, and Eric Dubois. And I practiced his name many times this week. And Sky Samuels, they both placed. Eric placed 2nd and Sky placed 1st. And then they showed the initiative to move on to the Golden Leap Science Fair, which not a lot of our students do. And there was 8 counties, so quite a few students. And Sky earned 1st place, and Eric also earned 1st place, and Ben earned a 3rd. And Sky and Eric then went on to state. And what I think is really cool is not only did they have great projects, but during that time they need to be interviewed and discuss their project. And there was a teacher, Mr. Nazer, was over Mr. Fiscal, who came back and he interviewed Sky, and Mr. Fiscal is someone who I really admire, and he just talked so highly about our students. So they did a great job. So county fair 1st and placed by Sky and Eric. And now I'm going to do a better job and get their photo. So Sky, come on up and then take a photo. Did we get it? Probably. All right. And then Eric, come on down. All right. Thanks, guys.
wonderful. Congratulations, gentlemen. Great work. Great. Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Thank you.
All right, again, that's fantastic. Thanks for being so diligent, gentlemen. All right, let's move on to comments from the public related items not on this agenda. So we have 1 green card, as we call it. Just a reminder, this is a non-agendized speaking point, so the board can't comment or interact as per state law, but we welcome you to come up, Christy Walker, and share your thoughts in about 3 minutes to share with the board and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to just press the button where the little speaker voice is, it'll turn red around. There you go.
There we
Perfect.
go.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. As you may recall, I came last month and spoke. My name's Christy Walker, and I'm a parent of kinder at Kings Mountain Elementary, and a longtime member of the community here. And last month, I spoke about some of my concerns regarding some of the bullying incidents that have been going on up at Kings Mountain. and how I have hopes that they would be handled a little differently and in a better manner than they have been to this point. And also about how one of our teachers up at Kings Mountain has faced what appears to be retaliation, firing or letting go as a result of some of those incidents, and speaking out as a parent, which I have a really difficult feeling like that's how she was treated. And there has created a climate there, and actually in talking to other folks in the district, I've found that there are other staff, not just at Kings Mountain, that feel like there are some retaliation-related issues about speaking up about concerns they have. And I, as a parent and community member, find that quite concerning, and I would hope that you, as board members, would as well. The folks that are with our kids day in and day out, know our kids the best, and are working on their behalf as best they can. If they feel like they cannot speak up on behalf of what they're seeing that is problematic in the school district, and for our kids, then that's a real problem. And so that's the first thing I'd like to mention and have you consider as something that you maybe look at, ways to kind of improve some of the culture in the district and at the schools so that everyone feels like they can speak their mind and be listened to. Because at the moment, I know, at least in some places in our district, that is not how parents and staff are feeling. So that's one of the concerns that I have. Since I spoke last month, I've talked to a number of parents at my daughter's school as well as other schools in the district, and have heard stories about how there have been a number of different bullying instances, or instances that might not quite meet the criteria for bullying, but that are problematic interactions between students where students are feeling threatened. And in some of those cases have been handled quite well, but in other cases it seems like there's some lack of understanding about what the policies and procedures are, who do parents go to if these things are happening. In some ways it seems like there are some obvious answers. Well, you should go to the principal or the teacher of your child's student. But if people aren't feeling comfortable approaching those folks, then many people seem not to know where to go with those concerns. And so that also, obviously, is a problem. So I wanted to bring that to your attention as well. And in fact, I think the bullying issues in general, with everything going on in our country, as the bullying incident that I was first made aware of at Kings Mountain involved gun threats, and everything else going on in our country, this is something that we really need to take a look at as a community and see what we can do to best support our kids, both the kids that are feeling bullied and those that are feeling the need to do the bullying. And I know there is a school district policy in place about bullying, and the first kind of line of defense on that, my understanding, is you go to the site and follow whatever the site policy is. Well, not all the schools have a site policy, or if they do, it's not readily available and known to parents. And so I would ask that the board be involved in helping to make sure that the district is working on making sure that all sites have a policy, that they are up to date. If they do have one, that it's up to date, and that it's individualized for each school. Because what works at a school where there are 500 students isn't necessarily going to be the same thing that works at a school where there are 70. And so, what works for high schoolers is going to be different than for elementary school. So that's something that I would ask to be considered as well. And again, I'm not sure if this is completely a school board related issue or more of a district issue, but it seems like the folks here in this room are the ones that can help make that decision and guide having that happen. I think I've heard a little bit actually just this week that some of those things might be in the works for trying to have a little bit more of that happening, which is wonderful, but I want to make sure that continues, because this issue has not gone away and isn't going to go away. The more we have in place, the better we can support our kids, which of course is what we're all looking to do. Lastly, I would think it would help to be very transparent about what's going on with this. There's a lot of questions from parents that I've talked to, again, about just not knowing where to go, not knowing what the policy is. And some of the social emotional learning that we focus on in this district is wonderful, but it only takes us so far. And once issues between children escalate beyond sort of the typical kind of playground day-to-day stuff, some of those tools and curricula don't really seem to help us get the next steps. So knowing what those next steps are as a district, making sure that all the staff know and the parents and the kids would really go a long way, in my opinion. So thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thanks for coming and speaking to the board. Appreciate it. All right, we will move on to representative reports. CUTA, Mr. Reardon, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here in May. It's my AP season, so I'm reeling. I'm on my heels here, and I almost have nothing to say, but I have a little bit to say. It was Teacher Appreciation Week last week, and we loved all the recognition that we got from our parents and from the board members. We loved a nice little gift for the cupboard at school. It's going to keep people in hot sauce and extra virgin olive oil for a while there. But the best appreciation was from the students, and they have what we had, a reverse Outstanding Cougar luncheon, where the usual Outstanding Cougar teachers nominate students, and we have lunch together and shout them out at the meeting. Well, I came in knowing that I would be the one teacher who was, forgotten, and when Cesar came on the screen and shouted me out and mentioned that we share a bond here in the boardroom, I really appreciated that, Cesar. It was great. Hopefully that support goes beyond our parents and the site administration and the board members and our students and extends to the voters coming up in June. I'm looking forward to phone banking with Rob in the next few weeks. Got a lot of teachers signed up to do it. Got 9 at the high school so far, and I'm not sure about the other sites. The CTA check is in the mail. I promise we'll get it to you guys before the 5th. We're going to spend that $375 just right. Finally, and I'm stepping on Caesar's venue here a little bit, but I'd like to invite all of you to the Student Art Show that will be at the Zavala House, opening on the 1st of June, 6:30 to 8:30 opening. All right, thank you for your attention, and thanks again, Cesar.
Great, Sean. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate it. Good stuff. All right, CSEA. Is anybody here from? Hi, Diane. Welcome.
Good evening, Rob, fellow board
Good evening.
members, Superintendent Euster. CSEA is excited. We have presented our sunshine letter to Jane here at the district, and it should be seen on next month's board packet. We continue to work with Jane and the board on issues that CSEA has, but we work very collaboratively. And CSEA would also like to thank the board for the recognition gift we received this week. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so we'll move on to discussion items. So we're going to go to 12A, discuss first reading of the proposed English Language Arts textbook adoption at Cunha Intermediate School.
So I'm excited to
Start it
present.
now. Welcome. Yep.
Hello. I'm excited to present our recommendation for adoption by the Cunha Language Arts Department. We have our wonderful teachers here, Mr. Mers and Mick Vicker, who have been working on this for the past couple of years, actually. And you can see the details within the board packet. Today we bring this adoption for you to consider for final approval at the board level. Today it's the first reading of the proposed ELA textbook adoption for Mirrors and Windows for Cunha Intermediate School.
Great. Any questions or comments from board members?
Just had one question, which was, does this program include ELD as well, or is that a separate unit that will be added later?
So this program includes integrated English language development. In addition to integrated English language development, next year we're going to be looking at curriculum specifically for designated English language development across the district.
So in other words, English learners would be receiving an additional period outside of the scope of this curriculum?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Can you explain a little bit about the plan for professional development with the new text?
That's an excellent question. We are going to be working still with the teachers to figure out the best times, especially with an adoption this late in the year, which is a normal time to actually adopt. We want to make sure that, number one, we get the materials, and then number two, we do have the materials available, and then have the professional development as soon as possible in the beginning of the year. The team is a very small team. I think currently there's about 5 or 6 teachers within the team. There's 8 teachers within the team. So we are going to be pulling them out in the beginning of the year and figuring out what the best time is for them. One of the challenges of having professional development for a team at this side of the summer is that not all the people are with us at the end of the summer for various reasons. And so we want to make sure that we pull the team together who's going to be teaching next year and have every single teacher who's going to be part of the team, part of the professional development as well. So the plan would be for next year to do the full group.
Great. Is it EMC? Is that the publisher?
Yes, and EMC is EMC. I tried to figure out what EMC stood for, and it is actually just EMC.
Just EMC, no problem. I mean, do they assist us in that? Do they provide tools as part of the package for
Yes.
that? They do. Okay. Great. Kim, anything?
Well, I noticed that there was a technology component. Is that something that, the technology component, can you talk to that a little bit?
I'm going to invite Ms. McVicker and Mr. Mers to speak to that, because I think that while I've spoken to them a lot about the different aspects of this, I think they'll be able to give you a more in-depth presentation on that question.
Okay.
Good evening. So with the technology tools offered with the proposed curriculum adoption, we have an 8-year digital license for a student bookshelf and a teacher bookshelf. And within the student bookshelf, we have an ebook that has all of the textbook online digitally. Excuse me, I'm trying to find the other notes that I have in here. Also, there are tools for highlighting, note-taking. There are audio selections as well for all of the literary pieces. We've got, in the teacher bookshelf, we've got answer keys for all of the ancillary materials, as well as ideas for differentiated instruction. There's a plagiarism checker link. We've got exam view, downloadable software to create our own assessments and work on some other test ideas that way. There are what they call the visual teaching package, and they have lots of digital pieces to incorporate into the classroom, ideas for technology use, etc. They have an e-library with 300 short and longer independent reading selections for students who care to push themselves that way, links to videos and other pieces that correlate to the literary selections in our textbook. There's a lot. So,
well, the other piece that I really like about the digital aspect that allows our students to practice 21st century skills also is printable. So students who either missed the class or had to be elsewhere or were sick, whatever's going on, we also have, there's flexibility within even the things that are the graphic organizers or the student-directed interactive with text that normally component happens online, is something that a teacher can print out and give to a student. So if that works better for the student, or the student circumstances has that kind of need, there's that flexibility within the structure of the program as well.
Great.
I was just wondering, how many teachers piloted the program?
We had 4 total, and then 1 from each grade level, and then 2 in 7th.
And then in terms of the other teachers feeling included in the decision, did it end up being a universal decision? Was it unanimous from all of?
Yes.
Okay.
And I really appreciated how you had gone through, tried another one, found it didn't work, and then tried a new one that's really felt like, from reading the discussion here, that you had explored different options and really found that this was the best one. So really appreciated that effort. I know it took a couple of years. So.
And we looked at a couple other materials as well. We didn't pilot them, but we found that this was really the best selection of literary works as far as classic and contemporary, local and international, and so we felt it was pretty comprehensive and challenging enough for our students that it would be helping us meet those Common Core standards, whereas our current textbooks, we have to do a lot of supplementing. So
yeah, I really liked that it sounded like a balance of the fiction and the literary as well as the nonfiction, which is so important in Common Core and important in living life, right, and continuing education as well. And also that there was representation from different ethnicities, local authors, California authors. That really was a nice component. So, good job.
That's one more question.
Not working well tonight.
Yeah, it was working.
There you go.
So this curriculum then would replace, because Wonders of Maravillas is currently used in 6th grade, is that correct? Or I'm trying to understand like what's there now, what this will be taking over, and what the gaps will
So
be.
what we
remaining.
have now is the whole literature program. No one in the department was, no one who's presently in the department was part of its original adoption.
Yeah.
So it's been like 14 years, I think we've been
Oh, okay.
It's actually a wonderful program in terms of its breadth. It's just done.
Old.
The books are sad,
Dated.
the
Yeah.
diversity. We have this great science fiction story that has a dial-up modem.
right, the informational texts are not quite current.
So this would be replacing our core adopted text. So this would be the textbook that we are required to have for our class.
Cool.
And I will also add to that, I think that what you're thinking of, Trustee Lane, is also in the Spanish immersion course in 6th grade. They are using Maravillas to support the Spanish piece. And then so as part of the process of looking at this adoption and piloting, we've also gotten input from also the special ed staff and as well as the immersion teachers in terms of making sure that this curriculum would also meet the needs of the English language component of that program. And so I didn't have it, I actually passed out around the materials, so that includes both a student book as well as a teacher edition that our teachers have marked for your convenience so that you can see how the components work together. We also have additional text in the back for people in the audience who are interested in looking at it in more depth.
The ancillary material is stunning.
And so you would still use the Maravillas component for the Spanish component of language arts for kids in
For 6th grade, because
For 6th grade.
Maravillas goes to 6, and then so for the other pieces, we're still continuing to
figure out for 7th and 8th
finalize all
Spanish
materials.
language
Yes.
arts. Okay, got it. Thank you. It's complicated.
It is. Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
All right, I think that's all the questions. Thank you so much. All right, we will move on to 12B, discuss first reading on the proposed mathematics textbook adoption for all elementary schools. Right back at you.
Hello. So this is very exciting to be able to present a recommendation for adoption by our elementary math committee for our mathematics adoption. This, after you've seen our Cunha CPM adoption that came through, I believe it was about 2 years ago at this point. Last year, we brought to you our college preparatory math continuation for the lower division classes at the high school. And then earlier this spring, we brought to you the advanced upper division courses, including AP Calculus, pre-calculus. So this last piece of the math adoption is going to be the final piece to unify our entire district and having all up-to-date math curriculum. So we are bringing to you the recommendation to adopt Bridges in Mathematics as our elementary math adoption for this year, for next year, for the next 8 years, actually.
Wonderful, thank you. Comments, questions?
Oh, and I will send around the materials.
Yep.
So the binders are teacher's guides, and the, I'm thinking in Spanish, sorry. Workbooks are workbooks. So one of the things that makes this program unique is the hands-on component to it. And so it does look very different than, for example, an ELA adoption at the middle school piece.
It's like pieces of trying different things.
Yes.
That's cool.
So
Are those the actual textbooks?
Yes.
The workbooks? Okay, so they're consumables?
Yes.
I'd probably just ask similar questions for the previous one, specifically like Freya's question about the process for the decision making.
So this has been a 2-year process, and throughout that process, we looked at a variety of materials, the materials that have been adopted by the state, as well as other materials that were already evaluated by an independent party called edureports.org. And so in looking at it, we looked at rigor and relevance, we looked at the content, how the materials aligned with Common Core and the mathematical practices. We also included a committee member from Cunha, Ms. Oldman, who was part of our math committee, who also helped us to identify the types of materials that would best align with what they're doing in 6th grade, because as a unified district, we want to make sure that we're also addressing the needs not just of elementary, but how those needs of elementary feed into the work and the curriculum that they have at the middle school, which feeds into the curriculum that they've chosen for the high school, and so on. So this school year, we had 2 pilots, one for Bridges in Mathematics, which was the first pilot, and then we also did one for Eureka Math in the second half of the year. The teachers who piloted the materials got professional development and implemented 1 full unit in both types of curriculum. We evaluated the curriculum, we shared the information back to the larger group of elementary teachers, and also got additional feedback from them. And at the end, as I included here, after the sharing of information, the final survey that we got back was a 67% approval rate, which I call a supermajority, and I think that was pretty good. So
That is a supermajority.
I think, right, exactly, 67%. So I think that it's challenging. I think whenever any of us look at different types of curriculum, every curriculum has parts of it that we love and parts of it that are challenging, and finding the one that's going to be the best fit for our students is a huge challenge. Things that our teachers really appreciated about Bridges is that it provided students with a lot of avenues for access, especially for English learners or students who have different types of learning challenges, because it's not as text heavy or pencil paper heavy. It allows students to access concepts in a variety of ways that are not just through words.
And I can say I appreciate you're looking at that kind of thing, even having seen some of the materials just incidentally as a parent from other programs, and taking a look at just like the font size on these booklets. It seems like really user friendly for a 5th grader to be able to look at something that's like a good, easy to read font, and not a lot of text, as you said, not a lot of text, but a lot of hands-on things. I think that's really terrific.
So how many of those are there at disposal for a year?
You know what?
One you wanted,
That's a good question. I would have to go back and look at it. Thank you for asking that question. So I think off the top of my head, I think there's 2 per year. So I think that one of the pieces about this curriculum is that there is an ongoing cost that we do have to purchase the consumable materials from year to year. One of the good things about that, well, let me start with the bad. The bad thing about that is then you have to include that as a consumable cost every year. The good thing about that is then the numbers that we order are actually going to match the number of students we have per grade. And one of the challenges we have in purchasing an adoption is that our adoption numbers stay consistent from year 1. So even though we only have, let's say, 230 students in a grade level that year, we're still getting 250 consumable books that year because that was the original adoption level. So there's a lot of benefits to being able to purchase those consumable books through the years annually.
And I noticed that there was a Spanish version of the workbook. Is the plan to implement it in Spanish at Hatch?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
In previous meetings, Joy, you've presented performance and assessment numbers for the district across all the grades. I'm just looking for really opinion as we know we have some challenges, and it's a factor of the kids themselves, what's happening at home, how we're teaching them, and so forth. But when we shift, can you just talk about your opinion on shifting from the materials we use today to this, how it will enhance what the gap is we have now in our current materials that maybe is hindering the kids? And get at what I'm
Yes.
asking? Okay.
Yes.
Help us understand that.
So one of the challenges about the current materials that we have is that they're based on 1997 standards. These are based on 2010 standards, so there's, number one, a huge difference between the two standards. And then the way that the 1997 standards were tested relied a lot on algorithms. It relied on, you may, for example, what we might see is that students who may not have strong language but have good math skills could still do well in math. That's not how it is now. It seems like the math tends to lag a little bit behind the English language arts because so much of the way that students have to access math really involves language. They have to understand how to understand what the question's actually asking. It's a lot higher level critical thinking. So in that regard, we need curriculum that actually helps students learn language around math, but then gives them access through concept development, for example, using manipulatives or hands-on activities, or even the way that the graphic organizers are set up so that they can conceptually understand what the questions are, then solve the math, and then also explain that back in an answer. So I think that one of the largest ways that there's been a shift in math is the level in which we need students to understand complex problems with multiple steps, tackle them linguistically, and then mathematically, and then explain their thinking. And that process might have been 1% to 2% of the prior type of testing or the prior type of instruction, and now it's really about 80% of the current instruction.
Great. Thank you.
I would encourage anyone afterwards to take a look at those materials, because the references and the extra sheets aren't just your standard mimeograph. Here are the numbers and the equations. It's rich with diagrams and different pictorial representations. Those triangles or tangrams. And also the workbooks. So, in fact, I missed the fact that I was sitting there looking at a Spanish book. I was so intrigued by the different graphing and just different representations. So I think it's, once the teachers get into it, it should be really rich.
I just wanted to ask the same question that Rob asked for the previous curriculum, which is involving professional development for the teachers and kind of how we see that rolling out and how the teachers are going to be supported. And because it does seem like it's quite a drastic change from what we've had before. So is there a plan for that?
So I believe it is a drastic change. I think that's one of the things that the pilot teachers noted. I think that's one of the concerns that the teachers noted. This is a huge shift. There's a lot more preparation that goes into just even when we talk about hands-on. There is more preparation involved. So one of the things that we're doing is looking at other school districts. For example, Pacifica 2 years ago adopted Bridges. So as a former Pacifica teacher, I have connections there. So we're actually going to be visiting a school and finding out what they did to support their teachers, and then what were some of those bumps in the road that they experienced, and how can we learn from what they did. Again, similar to what I said about the English language arts piece, one of the challenges of doing early professional development is that we still have a lot of people who we need to onboard in the fall. And so it's a challenge in terms of figuring that out. And in addition to that, the end of the year, teachers want to be in their classrooms and not doing professional development for the following school year. So our current plan is taking the recommendations of the pilot teachers who said, this is the minimum of what we really need to get done. We need to get the materials in people's hands by June. We want to have some opportunities so that people can unpack the materials, because there is a lot, so that teachers who want to be able to access it earlier can, but that we want to be able to have some early professional development on just getting jump-started that first week, and then figuring out, okay, well, how are we going to set that time aside within that first month of school to really delve in deeply when everybody's here, including the teachers and the students. So I think that the first year of an adoption is always a challenge because it's a huge jumpstart, but I think that when we can partner with neighboring school districts who've gone through the same challenge and hear from them and the teachers and the administrators about what their experience is, and then start right now with the adoption approval, which will be next month, hopefully, my hope, then we can really get into getting the materials here for the teachers, getting their hands on it, getting teacher leaders who can help support that learning, and then having the more formal learning with the staff developers from Bridges who can help in the following school year.
How long has Pacific been using Bridges?
My recollection is 2 years.
And any particular feedback from teachers in the classroom using it?
I think it's been very similar to what we're hearing from our teachers. I think that there is a concern, if there is a concern, I'll say it that way, if there is a concern, it's that the hands-on piece that is so beneficial in the concept development of students is the same piece that's very challenging in preparing on a daily basis. So the question is, how can we strike that balance between doing what we need to do to support students who are English learners or students with different learning challenges who need to be able to access the curriculum in a way that's not just through words on a page. We understand that words on a page is not sufficient, but then how do we do that in a way that is going to give the teachers the time that they need in order to prepare? So I think what one of the suggestions they had was maybe pick certain aspects of the curriculum that are going to create the most leverage and really implement that piece strongly with maybe a little bit less, with a little bit of openness to how other pieces are implemented, and then kind of layer on the complexity of the implementation. So that's one of the ideas that they presented. But having been a teacher, I know the teachers really closely, so they've talked to me from a teacher, past teacher level, and so I hear very honest feelings about how they see that. But in having those conversations with the current administrators, as well as the teachers, as well as the experience of our current pilot teachers who also went through this, I think that we'll be able to do what we see as best for the students, which is providing them with a really rich curriculum that is Common Core aligned, that supports critical thinking, that provides access for different types of learners and differentiation and individualization, while also honoring the time and the preparation that teachers have in wanting to be able to present the best to their students. So.
Anything else? Great, thank you very much. All right, we're done with our discussion items. We'll move on to communications. Board members, Kim, would you care to start?
I had the pleasure of attending Pilarcito's Fiesta, and that was a lot of fun with great music, and I forgot to wear it tonight, but a lovely scarf that I received many compliments on. So I'm hoping that that's something that's going to maybe grow over time. I'm looking at Raj in the back, so that was very exciting. So that was, I think that's, boy, this month has gone fast. So that was my highlight.
Thank you. Brad?
Measure M. So I just wanted to just really quickly reiterate again my personal thanks for this whole community and the way that it has come together over the last 8 years to really support this school district. I think as many of you know, I became involved with the schools when my daughters were in first grade and preschool, when I was involved with the first parcel tax Measure E. And I've just continually been impressed by the level of enthusiasm and commitment and kind of the depth of commitment to our schools that our community has. And so I'm really excited to be a part of this new campaign with Measure M, and just want to kind of give a call out to anything that you can do to help it pass is just really important right now. This is very vital for our district. There is no money that comes from the state to build our buildings, and over half of our school population is still in buildings that are 50 plus years old with the leaky roofs and with outdated electrical and other technologies, and we really owe it to our current students and our future students to make those improvements now, and I think that this is that opportunity in our community. So I want to say both a thank you for all the support and a request that we move forward with the trust and the faith in one another that we can make this happen and implement it in the best possible way. So that's all.
Thanks, Fran.
I'm going to state the obvious. This is not an easy business to be in, this whole education thing. I was thinking a lot about last month, collaboration, and as Freya alluded to here about how we wouldn't be where we are today. And I feel like I've had the opportunity over the last month to see that again. I think that's kind of the constant in our community, but also just really a few really notable examples of leadership within our community that I feel like, despite all the challenges or opportunities, as we might try to call them, just a wide range and breadth of people just stepping up and going above and beyond, what the requirements are, be it of their job or of their role as a student. I can give just a couple examples at Hatch, with Mr. Porcel, with an array of activities and just constantly thinking about new ways to engage families and to engage parents through coffee with the principal events, through the ELAC meetings, by honoring our English learners who were reclassified in a beautiful ceremony where not only the students were praised, but the parents were praised for helping to shepherd them through that process and getting to there where they can come up and celebrate and take a picture with the principal with their certificates. So, and I know with Cesar, we've talked a lot about the importance of celebrating, and he does such a good job at Fairlawn View of celebrating successes for kids. So that's just amazing to see continually having our Half Moon Bay High School go through what I would call a heart-wrenching assembly, timed right before prom to really help our community and our kids in particular understand that drunk driving is not just something that you read about in the headlines, but it can happen on the Half Moon Bay High School football field. And you can imagine, because you see what it feels like to hear the sirens coming up there, to just really bring home how one small mistake that seems kind of innocuous and part of the follies of youth could really be life-changing for people. So that takes courage, and that to me is, again, an example of leadership and the ability and the courage to bring that to our schools, knowing that it's going to have board members choked up on the sidelines, and students certainly feeling the, and teachers and everybody there. I don't think there was, anybody that didn't feel it in some deep emotional way. I had the opportunity to be at Cunha today and to present the gift from the board for Teacher Appreciation Week at the ELAC luncheon that was held there. I had two separate conversations. Great to see you guys again twice in one day, which is really cool. But to have separate conversations there with the math teacher and with the soccer coach, and it was interesting because there's such different ways of engaging the students, but it all came down to the same things. As I was listening to them, they were both speaking about how so much of what they do is not only the technical aspects of what they're learning through that topic, but also the character building and being able to work with one another. If you lose the game, how do you not throw fists at the kid that the goalie that let the ball go through, and if you're in math, and she's always working to get them to work together in a collaborative group, even if one kid's far ahead and one kid's far behind. How do you get them to work together? Say, this is your team. You've got to make this work and find a shared goal and make it happen. So to feel that consistency across what's happening in those larger picture goals was really cool, and that takes leadership too. So. And clearly our students are doing that on a daily basis, sitting at the board table and, it's just being in student leadership or just inviting somebody to sit and eat lunch with them. So I'm continually impressed by the collaboration and the leadership that we have here. And it's a really special place. Thank you.
Well, I'll have a couple of repeats, but I will talk about, from the other board members, but I will talk about every 15 minutes, which was at the high school. Talking about a coming together of communities, so there was the sheriff was there, and the fire department, and the EMTs, the coroner's office, radio communications, along with a heck of a lot of volunteers from the foundation, students, and so forth. So that's first. Two, the first day is an accident on the field, very realistic, dead students, pieces of glass coming out of the head, and it's all being videotaped for later broadcast. But the next day is the funeral. So the entire gym was full of every student at the high school, and the local mortuary was a casket rolled in. Students who were memorialized as the ones who had passed, and the whole room's full. And you knew all this was coming, But part of the exercise is that the parents are actually of the dead students, not actually dead, but just to repeat that again, right, and Freya was one of them. The CHP comes to their home, knocks on the door, and this is videoed, and tells you that your son or daughter has passed. And speaking to Freya and some of the others, even though it's not real, the thought of it, but where I completely lost it was when the parents and the siblings of the students who passed memorialized them and talked about the things that they never said and how they'll miss them and they'll never have them back. And frankly, I was blubbering. I mean, it was really wrenching and well done and real. And there's some kids are kids. There's some laughing at certain points, but at a point it all turned silent, right? They understood. And so if we can just save even one kid from making a bad choice, then it's a fantastic thing. But I think we're going to impact many more than that. So again, I'd like to especially recognize Ms. Tower. So if you could pass that along, John, I would. She was fantastic. A huge multi-month undertaking. And they do it every 4 years or so, and we're the only school in the county doing it this year. So kudos to our high school as well. So big stuff. And I'll just as an aside, I was coming over the hill with my wife Friday night with 2 young nieces, 4 and 6, and we followed a drunk driver, and we called 911 multiple times. And we came into town here, and hoping police were there, and they weren't. She took a left onto Main and proceeded to drive straight up the curb where the optometrists were, blew out brand new car, blew out 2 of her tires, proceeded downtown, and we followed her until the police finally did arrest her, but completely inebriated. So I mean, it's not distant, right? It's here in our community, and we should all have our eyes sharp and participate in the process and protect our kids. And I'll be very, this is a little soapboxy, but folks who are letting their kids drink, who are in high school, and friends drink, I think that's an incredibly poor decision. It's illegal to start, but kids do not have the wherewithal to control or decide or do things in moderation, and we have to be the protectors of these kids till they're adults. It's our obligation. So be the eyes and ears that will protect the kids in the community relative to alcohol. So again, great job, John. Coyote Days. So I also got to go to Pilarcitos, and Raj, I was reflecting, oftentimes the kids who are at Pilarcitos, they have some challenges or differences or so forth, and may not feel included or normal, right, whatever the term may be. And I know, frankly, the facilities there before we redid that school did not help that mood, that tone, self-worth, and so forth. And I think the board did their part, frankly, with some good guidance from Michael Ahern, former board member, to upgrade it. But I appreciate you continuing to push forward. And just because they're Pilarcitos doesn't mean they can't have their own fiesta. Do something cool. The teachers' band was fantastic. And I know you're starting small, but you branded it well, and I know it's going to grow. And like I said, hopefully it'll be a major music festival 5 years from now. But thanks for that continued leadership, Raj. That's it. And I'll just measure M. We got to rebuild the rest of the schools in the district. It's as simple as that. So even if it's just a couple hours for phone banking, you can go and check that out, or walk neighborhoods, or just spread the word so people know about why we're doing it and what the purpose is. So, and thanks to the community, people are activated and they're out there and they're passionate, and we've got to invest in ourselves because, again, the state, the monies simply are not there. So thanks for the time, a little longer than I normally am, but I thought all those were important. So that's it for board members. So we'll go to student. Cesar, you're up.
Okay, so I had a lot of responses with all the reports from the schools, and double-sided, it's on the other side of the page too. So I'm pretty proud of that. So starting off with Hatch, on May 7th, Hatch held a ceremony of reclassification. Parents were invited to see how students were getting their certificates of accomplishments for this huge achievement. Breakfast was served and a special cake for the students. Hatch had a fiesta, which was the most recent event, held at Cunha Middle School. Students, parents, and the community had the opportunity to gather and watch the students dance by grade levels. Also, the guests had the opportunity to engage in games and taste delicious tacos and quesadillas provided by Jaime's Tacos. The raffle was at the end of Fiesta with 119 gifts. Mr. Porcel would like to thank to all the parent volunteers who had organized this magnificent event, as well as teachers for all the hard work. Last coffee with the principal was held last Thursday. Parents had the chance to get updates on curriculums, events, PBIS, etc. directly with Mr. Porcel. It was well attended. Thank you to all the parents for their participation. Teacher Appreciation Lunch will be tomorrow at Hatch, provided by the Latino community to appreciate teachers for their hard work throughout the year. June 14th will be the 5th grade promotion ceremony. We will say goodbye to our 5th graders and wish them the very best in the next phase in their education, middle school. So next is Fairlawn View. So Fairlawn View would like to report that we had a very successful and well-attended talent show, which featured about 40 performances. We are very thankful to the volunteers who made this happen. In addition, we would like to show our appreciation to our PTO and COSIDE community. They have worked with us very closely to bring more funding throughout COSIDE, GIVE, and the Jogathon. We are a very lucky school. In terms of initiatives, a team of teachers, parents, and principal came to the San Mateo County Office of Education to highlight the increased family attendance to our literacy evenings. And the next we'll go with Cunha. So Cunha honor roll students had a great trip at the Space and Science Museum. Past Friday activities included potato sack race, dizzy cup relay, Star Wars musical chairs, and much more. The CASP and SBAC testing is in session, and 8th graders take their science state tests on May 15th, 16th, and 17th. Boys and girls track and field season has been great, and sectional and finals are taking place in a few weeks. Boys and girls soccer teams are making their way strong through the season, and wrestling and tennis has been doing great while representing Cunha. Talent show will be happening in May, but before we need to get sign-ups and tryouts. Cunha open house is on May 17th, and the Super Bowl is coming up, which is held on May 21st through the 23rd, which will determine the winners to go to Gulfland on May 31st. Last, the 7th Annual Youth Summit for the 8th graders will be on May 24th. And, yep. And last with Half Moon Bay High School. In the last week of April, we had our yearly talent battle, which was well attended and had many entertaining acts. In the first week of May, the senior class have confirmed where the students want to attend in college in the future. We also had a 2-day assembly known as Every 15 Minutes, which reminds everyone in our community about the dangers within drinking and driving. Special thanks to all the students who participated in this event and shared this strong message with everyone. On May 5th, we had our yearly prom at Santa Cruz Coconut Grove, which went amazing. Thanks to the Half Moon Bay High School prom committee who was able to, thanks to the Half Moon Bay prom committee who was able to make this year's prom special. This week and next week is AP testing, so students are preparing as best as possible to do a great job. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, which the Half Moon Bay High School leadership students have been appreciating students with small gifts like trophies, mugs, and even the reverse cougar luncheon. In a couple weeks, we will have a color run at our Half Moon Bay High School areas, because it's all around. They go down the hill, around the fields, whole high school. And this will be on May 20th, and which will be lots of fun. And on May 24th, Half Moon Bay High School students will be attending the Youth Summit in order to share our club, sports, and extracurriculars. This will be a great opportunity for the 8th graders to get to know the high school before the 4-day weekend. In the month of June, we will have our last assembly, which is a yearbook assembly, and all students will be taking finals, and graduation ceremony will be on June 14th at the District Event Center. Thank you.
Thanks, Cesar. Appreciate it. A lot going on. Jane.
So it's spring and a lot of stuff going on out in our schools and in our community. The first thing I want to call out is actually something I won at an auction. And that what I won was a Wildflower Walk. And if you have not, you need to bid on this because Trustee McCammett leads it. And she is a wonderful botanist. And you walk along and she explains all the flowers that you see, and it's right behind Fairlawn View. And then when you've completed your walking and enough botany for a while, and then there's this marvelous dinner that is laid out. Thank you. And it's just not to be missed. It's a wonderful time. It was wonderful for me to be with Joy Dardanelle was there in her role as mom, and also assistant superintendent as well. It was great fun, a lot of fun just to go off and do something like that and enjoy this wonderful community and our multi-talented people. Then we had the Superintendent's Parent Advisory Committee met, and we're giving their input and feedback to our local control accountability plan, or what we call our strategic education plan. Many of our presidents and members of our English language learner committees were there. We also had special education parents represented. A wide variety of parent groups were there at that meeting. It was a great meeting, a couple hours, and we got a lot of fantastic input from them, and very excited on the new version of this plan to come. So that was excellent. And then I was lucky enough to attend our very first mental health collaborative fair that took place last Friday at Cunha Intermediate, Friday night. I walked in, it was a packed house, and there were services available and parents listening to presentations, and it was fabulous. Just a great thing to see, and parents very complimentary and thrilled that services being made available to meet the needs both for their kids and for the families. Star Vista, a number of really great organizations present, so what a great kickoff night it was, and I'm sure we'll continue to do them. Then I was at Coyote Fest on Saturday morning and watched Dudley, one of our great teachers, rocking it out with his band, and we just had a great time at the event. Hopefully raised a lot of money for the school, but and it also just a thrill. I mean, the courtyard use of Pillar Cedos really got to work out with the great benches there, and I was like, oh, I'm glad we really got this kind of bench rather than this kind of bench. So great job, Rob. It was just fabulous, and we enjoyed it immensely and wouldn't have missed it for anything. It was fun. And then Sunday was Fiesta, and great to watch Hatch and the immersion parents there. Also, if you haven't seen those little kids doing the traditional dances and Kathy Wall with, so this, as a secondary teacher and administrator, how it is possible to handle little ones that, I mean, they move. You know, I'm looking at the middle school, you know, ours twitch and stuff. These run. And yet the teachers are magnificent. The kids were so cute. I couldn't stand it. And they've practiced and practiced, and these kids look like pros. It was just fantastic. And congratulations, it was really a great job. The food was out of this world. Not only was Jaime there with the tacos and everything, but the baked goods sections, yeah, those were really, really good. So a great event, and I just love watching our communities do things like this, and lots of people there. And now we are coming up on all of the open houses, and I'm very excited. The awards night at Half Moon Bay High School, if you don't know what this is when the scholarships are awarded. So it's very exciting because from what I've heard so far, I think we're going to award a tremendous dollar amounts in scholarship to our senior classes. And so if you can, Rob will be announcing the actual date of it. If you can make it to that night, it's like walking into a giant cheerleading squad. It's just amazing to watch our kids. The open houses for the elementaries are coming, and I can't believe it. And very soon, all the promotions and graduations. We are about a month away from the end of school, so it amazes me. But it's been a great, great school year. Absolutely marvelous effort by everyone involved. I can see everyone out at the sites. You know, it's the May and people are starting to get tired. The kids are getting tired. I mean, but the fabulous efforts are really paying off, and our kids I've seen them during testing, and they're just putting out tremendous effort. So congratulations to everybody, and looking forward to a great year end.
All right, we'll move on to number 14, consent items. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved. Second.
Oh. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, 4 plus 1. All right, we'll move on to action items. So we have resolution 15A, adopt fiscal year-end resolution number 08-18 to approve appropriating ending balance to a reserve. Crystal.
Yes, good evening. This is, we're starting to get into our standard housekeeping items as the year end approaches. So this resolution establishes a reserve account and appropriates any funds that are not yet appropriated as I'm closing the books. So I ask you to adopt this year-end resolution 0818.
Great. Do I have a motion to approve? Second, thank you. Okay, this is a roll call. Aye.
Yes. Aye.
All right,
Yay.
4. You're excited about it. Beautiful. All right. All right, all in favor. Thank you, Cesar. All right, we'll move on to 15B, adopt fiscal year-end resolution 09-18 to approve budgetary increases and transfers at year-end.
Yes, again, another housekeeping item. This resolution allows me to make the necessary year-end transfers instead of calling several special board meetings. And then these amounts and these transfers are reported when I present the unadopted actuals in September.
Thank you for not calling special meetings to do that. I appreciate it. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, thank you. This is another roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. 4 plus 1. All righty, well, we'll move on to future board agenda items. Discussion of public hearing of LCAP. We'll have discussion public hearing of CUSD budget. We'll approve proposed English language arts textbook adoption at Cunha Intermediate. We'll approve proposed mathematics textbook adoption for all elementary. Approve and adopt LCAP. Approve and adopt CUSD budget. And we'll adopt ongoing policies, monthly maintenance update and revisions. Yeah, we don't update the policies this month. We got to. All right. Okay.
Next month.
All right. A through O, future events. So bear with. May 16th, we'll have incoming kindergarten parent night at El Granada at 6 p.m. On the 17th, Cunha Intermediate School Open House, 6 p.m. at Cunha. May 18th, the J. Russell Kent Awards at the Crown Plaza in Foster City. The 24th, El Granada Elementary Arts and Science Day. Also on the 24th, Kings Mountain will have their open house at 6:30. May 25th, non-school day for students and teachers. That's going to be a good one. May 28th, it's a holiday. All sites are closed. The 29th, we'll have middle college graduation over at CSM Theater. On the 31st, El Granada Open House, 5 p.m. May 31st, Fairlawn View Elementary Open House, 6 p.m. The 31st, we'll have the Half Moon Bay High School Awards Night, 8 p.m. On June 1st, we'll have the Half Moon Bay High School Braid and Yearbook Ceremony in the morning at 9:30. June 5th, Big Lift Meeting. June 5th, also Chamber Education Committee meeting at 4 p.m. And we will return here June 7th for the next board meeting. So the board is going to return to closed session, so we will adjourn the open session. Thank you for attending this evening.